this. Can you come to my school? Do you have a motivational program that you do magic in? And so I told the lady, yes, I do. And so I put together a program called The Magic of Believing in Yourself.
Right.
And it was all about motivating kids to believe in their self education-wise and whatever else they wanted to be and pursue moving forward.
Right.
And so I put together this program, did it at the school, and next thing you know, it just spread like wildfire.
Okay.
And other schools started asking me, hey, can you do this at my school? And that's how I end up getting into the school market and doing the kind of like motivational speaking for junior high schools and a few high schools sprinkled in there as well.
Hi, thank you so much for joining the Falling for Learning podcast. I am TD Flenaugh. We have this podcast to help parents and caregivers with having the resources, strategies, and tools needed to make sure that their children are on track for learning and to stay on track for success.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us on the Falling for Learning podcast. Today we have Sukuma Avery. Sukuma is a magician by trade, and he's going to tell you all about his wonderful career. And at the Falling for Learning podcast, of course, we talk about different careers your child might be into. And so he's going to tell you a little bit about himself.
Yeah, hey, my name is Sukuma Avery. You want to tell me where I'm from? Fairbanks, Alaska. Grew up with Taisha here. I happen to be in town for work, and we had to jump on this podcast. So this is awesome. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. So my career started at a very young age, pretty much. I always had a fantasy for the magical arts, magic and mentalism and things like that. And it's something I just had a hobby with all my life, pretty much. And later on down the road in my adulthood, it turned into a career. And that's what I do today, is represent a bunch of different companies, Fortune 100 and 500 companies, on the trade show floor at trade shows and conferences and corporate events, and produce entertaining events for them.
Cool. All right. So as you just heard, we grew up together in Alaska. So Sukuma and I grew up in the same church in Alaska. And, he knows me as Taisha, but of course, I'm known as TD Flenaugh as the host of the podcast. But we always start with the beginning with our guest is, what hooked you into learning as a kid? You kind of talked about a little bit how you love magic and all of that, but was there something else before that, or was that the thing that hooked you in?
So really, yeah, this is deep because, so as you know, I had trouble reading as a kid.
Yeah.
And you know that whole story, how that starts. And then magic is something that I really loved. And so that allowed me to also become a better learner and a better reader by going to the public library and getting magic books and reading those. In fact, I was so enthralled and thrived in it that I would keep the books longer than I was supposed to have kept them. And so, but that's really what started my learning and helping me to learn to read better, along with, the tutoring at the church and stuff. That also played a major role in me becoming a better reader. But that's really what caused me to start reading more, was the art of magic.
Yeah, so Sukuma definitely, when he was a kid, he would be doing this magic. He would come and just stop us and be like, let me show you my magic trick. Let me show you.
Yeah.
So he's been doing that since he was a little kid. And, you heard it here. It was something that he was really interested in, and he got books about it and just kept those books, kept reading them, tried them out. So this may be something that can hook your child into learning. If you haven't found that hook for them yet, it could be something for them. So you told us about what hooked you into learning. What can you tell us about your education journey? You said you had a problem reading when you were younger. Can you tell us a little bit about what caused that? Because, the audience would like to know.
Really, it's just not really being a big deal in my household, right? not having my parents really around to help with that side of things with education, so it wasn't really a big deal. It was more of a big deal, of course, when I was at school and was having trouble reading. And of course, other people stepped in to help assist with that so I can become a better reader. But that's how it all starts in the household, so it's very important that parents get involved with their kids' education. That's very important, or they will have problems as they move forward if you don't take care of that at the beginning.
Yeah, so it made a difference.
Absolutely.
So tell us about high school, what clicked for you once you start reading better, and, your education after high school.
Sure, excuse me. So in high school, obviously I got better at reading, but one of the keys for me in high school was I always asked questions. I was never afraid to ask for help.
Okay.
And so with the teachers, they knew I was that type of student where, like, if I didn't get anything, I would ask for help. And that's what made my journey in high school much smoother, was actually asking for help. You know what I mean? Whether it was studying for a test, or if I didn't understand something or a subject or something I didn't understand, I would simply just ask teachers for help. And then I also had friends that were smart that could help me too. And I had friends in school that wouldn't just tell me the answer.
Right.
They was like, no, here's how to research it. Here's how to go about doing it. You need to learn for yourself. But that's how it was for me. I just always asked for help. And that's what made me a better student, and at the end of the day, a better learner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So got through high school. What happened? What happened after high school with your education?
So after high school, I ended up getting a scholarship for basketball, and I went on to a school, a JC in Montana, and I played a season there for 1 year. Once I tore my meniscus, I never went back to school, but that never ended my journey in learning. I tell you something, my coach in college, told me something very interesting. He said, listen, with the talent that you have, you necessarily don't need college.
Okay.
And so I just took that, what he said. I wasn't even mad that he said that, because it made me think. And I was like, yeah, he was right. So I took that advice and I just started working towards my entertainment career.
So is that the talent he was talking about? Or he wasn't talking about basketball? He was talking
about the magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So.
All right. And so you, that ended your education career, right, as far as in college.
Right.
But then what happened so that obviously you had to learn a lot of skills, correct, for you to be a magician the way you are today. So tell us about that learning journey.
Sure. So once I got out of high school, I ended up moving to Seattle. I had family there, moved there. And I just started, and I had friends that were in the industry already. Okay. And so I would get advice from them how to go out and market myself and get work. Some of them had books they lent me to learn about marketing myself. Okay. So I would dive in there and read and do and just see what stuck. And whatever stuck, I just kept doing. But again, my learning process never stopped. I kept reading, I kept learning. I was investing in myself if I could, meaning I was going out to the libraries, to like Barnes and Nobles at the time, buying marketing books, self-development books, and learning how to market myself and just become better at who it is I am and how I could put myself out there in the marketplace.
Okay, so tell us about some things that you did and you tried as you were developing your business.
Right. So one of the first books I got on marketing was called Guerrilla Marketing. And this was all about, really, if you didn't have a lot of money to spend, it was all about like getting flyers printed up and putting them on people's cars, letting them know about what it is you do. It was all about the pull tabs, putting your phone number on there, and people would take those. And so I would do things like that. And next thing you know, I was getting not a lot, but I realized some of the stuff I was doing was working, so I kept doing it.
Okay.
And next thing you know, I started getting more and more business, and I kept doing the things that were working, and I kept learning about other things that later on will eventually work as well.
Okay. So what was the pool tab? Like, what was that offer with, like, when you first started, what would you get paid to do?
Yeah, so one of the first things I started in, I read in actually a marketing book for magicians and entertainers. One of the easiest markets to get into was kids' birthday parties, doing magic at kids' birthday parties. So that's what I would advertise first. Hey, I could do a birthday party for your kids ages 5 to 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'll pull a rabbit out of the hat.
Okay.
The kid will pull a rabbit out of the hat. Things like that.
Yeah.
And that will pique parents' interest. And then they would call me and say, hey, are you available for this day to do my kid's birthday party? And so that's how I would get work.
Cool. All right.
Excuse me.
No problem. So from the birthday parties, how did you expand your business from there?
So when I was doing birthday parties, I ended up getting in some restaurants where I was doing what they call table hopping.
Hello, parents. All across the United States, we have students who don't know how to read well and who don't know how to write well. Now, I'm not here to shame you, but I am here to blame you. If your child is behind, it is partially your responsibility and your fault. That next generation needs to be the one that's telling your story, not other people, not other families, not other races or ethnicities. Your family needs to be able to tell your story. And if your child can't write well, who's going to tell your story? I have written 2 books to help address these issues. It is the Rewrite Method, the Parent and Educator Guide for Getting Middle Schoolers to Fall in Love with Writing, and the Rewrite Method Workbook, the Parent and Educator Action Plan for Getting Middle Schoolers to Fall in Love with Writing. This book gives you step-by-step and easy to use and implement activities to make sure that your child not only gets better at writing, but loves to write. Join us for Well Educated Wednesdays every Wednesday on Instagram Live at Falling for Learning. It is a free parent question and answer session where parents can ask questions, learn about resources, strategies, and tips to make sure their children are on track for learning and stay on track for success. That's every Wednesday on Instagram Live at Falling for Learning. We look forward to seeing you and helping the next generation thrive.
Okay.
And that means a restaurant would hire you to, sometimes if it's a long wait for tables, they'll hire a magician to kind of ease up on that wait time and entertain the people waiting in line. Mm-hmm. So I would do that. And then once people are seated at their tables waiting on their food, I would go table to table and do magic for the families. And one thing about that market was interesting is you start getting spin-off work, meaning you never know who's going to be in that restaurant.
Okay.
So it'll be corporate people in there. It'll be, educators in there. Hey, can you do this at my school for a school assembly? Can you do this at my corporate event for my group?
Okay.
And so I will get different type of work from the restaurant.
Okay, so tell us more about someone asked you to do this at their school, right? So how did that work out?
So one day, the first school I really did when I put together a motivational magic type program was for a junior high school. And this happened from the restaurant.
Right.
I happened to be doing magic in a restaurant, and I happened to be talking to an educator, and she said, hey, you're really good at this. Can you come to my school? Do you have a motivational program that you do magic in? And so I told the lady, yes, I do. And so I put together a program called The Magic of Believing in Yourself. Right. And it was all about motivating kids to believe in their self education-wise and whatever else they wanted to be and pursue moving forward. Right. And so I put together this program, did it at the school, and next thing you know, it just spread like wildfire.
Okay.
And other schools started asking me, hey, can you do this at my school? And that's how I end up getting into the school market and doing the kind of like motivational speaking for junior high schools and a few high schools sprinkled in there as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about numbers. Like, how much did you charge the schools?
So at the time, this was early 2000s, I believe I charged the school $750. And at the time, this was still early in my career, building my business. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of money for me then.
How long would you be there for $750?
So I would do about a 45-minute show. That would be my program, a 45-minute show. And that was the perfect time for those kids to sit through a program for their,
Some people don't get paid $100 an hour, $50 an hour. So 45 minutes, $750.
Right.
So yes, this is what we talk about on Falling for Learning. You know, entrepreneurship is also a path to a successful career. And of course, the learning doesn't stop. You know, he didn't do like a bachelor's degree or whatever, but the learning didn't stop. A lot of trial and error, right?
Right, absolutely.
How long do you think it took you to get, more steady income, do you feel like, to take you from your like beginning going into Seattle to?
Yeah, really. Once I started doing stuff like, when I started doing more the schools and then branching off into the corporate world, it began to get more steady and steady and steady and steady.
So how many years do you think? Like 2 years?
No, probably about maybe 3-4 years until it really, like when I really started understanding the marketing side of things and really saying how you to keep cash flow coming in. And then what I want to point out, one thing I learned too along the way is I started getting 50% deposits, right? So then I had learned about cash flow, keeping cash. So I could have 5 or 6 gigs booked in a month, but have all those deposits come in pretty much at one time. So now I have cash flow, and then after the show, obviously I'll get the remaining 50% of the check.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you don't do schools anymore.
No.
So how did you move from schools into another market? Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much the same way is, because when I was doing the schools, I was also getting corporate events as well. And then I realized as I got older as a human, and then as I got older in my career, I really decided, okay, this is the market that I really want to focus on. Because you heard the saying, you could be a master, what they call it?
A jack of all trades,
a master of none, right? So I really wanted to niche down to really one market, and that was the corporate sector. You know what I mean?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So we were talking earlier, and you told me about how you were growing your business outside of the school. You had like a thing that you did when you gave them certificates.
Yeah. So also too, yeah. So I used to do magic classes for kids.
Okay.
And these classes will be about 8 weeks long. So what I wanted to do is get spin-off work from the magic class itself. So what I would do is I would just at my house on my home printer, I would go to Office Depot and get these certificates you can print up on. And I would give all the kids in my classes certificates saying, hey, you completed this magic course. And the kids love this stuff, like they completed something. Yes. And so I would make all these envelopes for them and put them in the envelopes. But I also would put like a little coupon in the envelope for the parents, because the parents are going to see these envelopes. The kids are going to show them what's in them. Yes. And then the kids will give the coupon to their parent saying, hey, book me for their birthday party. And so I would get spin-off work from the magic classes from the coupons I put in the little envelope for the kids. So it was something I read about and just implemented it for my market.
So he's really implementing the things that you're learning
right
in those books, so you really went out and used it. I think, a lot of marketing majors, could resonate with some of the things that you're doing.
Absolutely.
And then maybe they even didn't execute on some of
Sure,
these things that you actually executed on. So the corporate jobs, were they coming from the spinoff from the restaurant?
Yeah, some of them was. Yeah, a lot of them was. A lot of the corporate spinoff stuff was coming on. And then, so one thing about the corporate market sometimes is different sectors in the corporate market. So you got hospitality suites, like a cocktail party.
Okay.
You got trade shows and conferences. And then you just got regular corporate banquets and stuff. And so I noticed over the years, like if I got hired for a corporate banquet, the following year, most likely I wouldn't always get booked because they would want to do something else.
Different.
But I found out later on that the corporate trade shows, any given company would do multiple trade shows a year. Mm-hmm. So not only will you get booked for that one trade show, they may book you for 3 of their trade shows. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I found out, like, oh, okay, this is where the market is. This is where I really need to focus my attention on.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, you could say, you don't have to tell us, but what's the average pay for the trade shows?
So anybody with the app, let me just say annually, you can make 6 figures in the business if you do it correctly, if you have a good client base. And in this industry, you don't have to have a lot of clients. Mm-hmm. You just have to have the clients that book you multiple times a year. Right. So you can make 6 figures.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. What tips, because I know that you also are a father mm-hmm. and a husband, what tips or strategies can you say for parents who they may not have, their kids may be not sure what they want to do, or they're trying to see how they can make sure they're interested in school, or what ideas do you have for them?
Yeah, just, after a while, at a certain age, your kids will be passionate about something. And I kind of learned so I have a 15-year-old right now and a 12-year-old. So my 15-year-old, she's really into animation, okay, right? So she's kind of looking later on maybe to go to some kind of graphic school. We don't know yet, but that's kind of what she's passionate about mm-hmm. now. Mm-hmm. So one of the keys, I think, is to let them kind of dive into that passion now. And when time comes, you could see if that's something they really want to do and find out early enough about it. You mm-hmm. know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is just be as involved as you can with your kids to find out, again, what they're involved in and what they like. Because I believe sometimes you don't always go the direction that, the what you have a passion for, your kid, mm-hmm. they may not always go that direction. They can end up having a passion for something else later on.
Right.
But you got to let them learn through that, but you have to support them and guide them the best way you can. So okay. That's the advice I would have.
All right, cool. So, what do you think as far as what's your advice for parents who are a little bit worried about their kids going into this entrepreneurial route, or not finishing their education? What advice or ideas do you have for them, if that may be what's happening?
Sure.
Or, yeah.
To be absolutely honest, I absolutely love it, because I think we live in the world today, the world we live in today. I think entrepreneur, you have to have it, mm-hmm. or you have to have some open eye about it, because I think when you are entrepreneur, really there's no limit on what you could do, right? Mm-hmm. If your kid is passionate about something, let's say they go to college and then they end up wanting to get out of it because they're passionate about something else, you may have to support that and see, but also you have to make sure they're actually passionate about that and want to do. Like you explained your daughter, she was really passionate about the beauty industry.
Yeah, she was.
But she really dove into it.
Really did.
She wasn't messing around about it.
Right.
So I think that's the key. If your kid tells you, hey, I really want to do this, then you have to let them explore that and support them as best as you can. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the key, I think, is to really make sure that's what they're really going to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's my advice on that.
Make sure that they're being serious about it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And like I said, I want to highlight what you said, like make sure you are involved. So
Right.
you have an idea what your kid likes or what they don't like. If you're not really involved, you're not sure. And
Exactly.
it's hard to guide them or to even like point out to them, like, you seem to be really good at art, or you seem to, because they may,
Right.
kids don't just all automatically come out all the time and say, I really think I want to, they don't necessarily say it, but you could help point out, like, you always do this, or you seem to be really interested in this. But if you're involved, you'll know that. But if you're not as involved, then you may not even know what your kid likes, and you may try to steer them towards something that you like that may not be something that they like at all.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So any like final words or advice you want to give for parents whose kids may be struggling, or they're not sure how to support their kids the best they can?
No, just I wish I had this on my phone. Is a quote, and it's so great. It's really, I don't have it with me, but I forgot the name of it, but it was something of this lines like, don't yell at your kids before bedtime. Don't yell at them in the morning.
Okay.
Give them good energy at those times.
Yes.
Despite how they feel, right? Mm-hmm. And then one thing I try to tell myself as a parent is try to understand your kids, right? Because you know how it is, like, kids will give you attitude for no particular reason, right? And it's like I'm really, even today, I'm trying to understand that, right? Yeah. And as a parent, I'm trying to understand it on the positive side of like not lashing back out. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? But then ask like, what's up with that? You know what I mean? So really, man, just try to be like, I know it's tough as parents, but just try to be understanding. Like, we all was their age before. Yes. We all did that, had that attitude too. But just try to understand and just try to rock with your friends, but rock with your kids. But don't be their friends. Be their parent. Don't ever be their friend. Be their parent. You know what I'm saying? That's the real advice I want to give. Don't be your kids' friends. Be their parents. And don't sugarcoat nothing.
Tell them the truth.
Tell them the truth. That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks again. Have a great week. Okay.
Thanks again for supporting the Falling for Learning podcast. New episodes go live every Saturday at 5 p.m. You can watch us on youtube.com at Falling for Learning, or listen on all major podcast platforms such as Apple, Google, Audible, Spotify, and much more. For more resources, visit fallinginlovewithlearning.com. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful week.